Hello coders! Good afternoon. I'm just bringing the camera down a wee bit, if it can move. There we go. Put that into focus. Right, so what I want to try and do today is debug some of the issues I was having with the PHP MySQL course. And last week we were playing around with some planning for the controllers, creating some stubby controllers and writing some documentation as to how the course is actually going, the user journeys, essentially building the user journeys. That's what we were doing last week, and I was doing that last week because I knew that there was some issues with the current code connecting to the database, and I didn't have Xdebug installed and running on this machine. Then that's why we did the planning stuff back then. Today I have Xdebug running, and I should be able to actually start testing these things. Now there's a couple of issues. These are all coming from the unit tests. So if I was to go into the code, which, sorry, bear with me, which is here, and for some reason, I don't know why, my screen has gone. Let me see if I can put that back. Technical issues. What would this be? It would be video capture device, and it would be an existing device, and it would be you, I believe. Whoa, that's pretty big. Sorry, I'm on the fly doing some little tweaks. Let me put myself back into that little corner there. Sorry, let's trim that down a wee bit. Let's put that in the little box. Get back in your box, Mr. Fisher. There we go. We'll just bung that in there for now. Right, sorry about that. Let's move on. I don't know why that was. I'll lock that in OBS. I don't know why. Anyway, whatever. Right, so yes, I finally managed to get the debugger running. Finally. And yes, so what we'll do is we'll stop that for a minute. We'll go back into the terminal, and these are some of the issues. If I did composer test, so this is going to run the whole suite of things. So it's going to run PHP CS. There's no issues there. PHP stand, no issues there. But it fails. There's 3 failures on the integration tests that I've created. So that's what we're going to look at. The unit tests, as in the unit tests, they're okay. If I was to run composer PHP unit, unit, these will all pass. So there's 15 PHP unit tests that pass. However, if I run the integration tests, these fail. So there's 3. Now, the difference between the units, obviously, and the integration tests, as you full well know, the tests for integration test the integration of the database. If you've been watching the previous streams, you'll know. And the unit tests will test just the units of work, right? Okay, so something isn't right with the database, and there's 3. So first of all, we have find by, which is failing, test invalid password, that's failing, PDO exception is thrown, and invalid username. I'm guessing that these 2 things are pretty related, and this one is something that is different, because this is trying to assert that null is identical to 1. So there is something wrong with this routine here. So what we're going to try and do is we'll try and get Xdebug running and actually do this. This is the user manager. This is the file that we're playing with, and I believe somewhere in here, find by ID, something is failing. So what I'm going to do on the user manager test, I tested this before the stream. I managed to do that this time. And I put a breakpoint on here at line 31. So something in there is breaking because the test here is trying to assert that get ID is 1. when we're finding a user by one, right? So it should find that user. It then should assert that the ID is the same ID as the ID that I found it with, right? That would make sense. The fact that these are passing, right, means that the record has been found, but for some reason the ID isn't working. I don't know why yet. So let's have a little look. Let's have a look at this. So what I'll do is I'll run. Oops, sorry. I won't run that because that won't work. Right, in the terminal here, I'll run backwards search. It was export session to 1, and then we'll do unit. Actually, if we did that, PHP test unit. Okay, so it should. Oh no. It's integration tests. It's integration tests. Right, so it should, if I've set this up correctly, it should stop on line 31, although I think it's going to stop on the first part of the script, but let's just give it a whirl at least. Let's press play on that. So there we go. Oh, no, hang on a minute. Why did that not stop at the break? It helps if you've turned on your debugger. It's been one of those days. Let's try it again. Right, here we go. Okay, here we go. So it stopped at the first line. That's fine. That's just the first line of Composer. And then we can skip that through. And then, yeah, we get to the PHP unit side. So that's fine. It's just loading up the PHP. There we go. Now we're here. So we're here, and we can see that this is the manager and all that thing. So we can see that the debugger is kind of running fine. Let's step into this. So we're going to step into this method now. Okay, so we're now into the find by ID. We've passed in 1. You can see that 1 is here. This is part of the debugger. So you can see that 1 is passed. So there's the ID of 1 here. And then what we're going to do is, I guess, because I don't know how, I haven't fixed this yet, so I don't actually know A, what's wrong, and B, how to fix it. So let's get into the query by ID. I just thought this would be fun to do it on stream. Let's jump into the step into here. Okay, so we're now in the next method, which is query by ID. What we're doing is we're passing in the table name, which we know is user, and the ID, which is 1. So that's going to generate this SQL. So if we step over that now, SQL should be here. So we've got select all from user where ID is equal to :ID, which is fine. Now what we're going to do is bind. Well, we're going to prepare that statement. We're going to then execute it. So I'll step over that one, and I'll step over that one. So now we have this. So we've executed the statement. Now we're going to return. We're going to build this result. So if I'm going to step over that, we can see that we have a result now. So if I open up the result, so this is the actual result from that query. Now, interestingly enough, which is very confusing, we have an ID of 1. This is the record that was found by that statement, that fetch statement. So weirdly enough, which is very peculiar, the ID is 1. And yet with the test, we are testing that 1 is equal to get ID. So there must be something between the fetching of the data and the actual building, mapping, hydrating to the user object. There must be something that is removing that. So anyway, let's get back into the user manager. Where are we? Oh dear, I've gone and lost my trail of thought. Here we go. So it's an integer. That's worth noting. So let's step over that again. So now we've stepped out of query by ID. We have the result, as we can see here. That's still an ID. That's fine. So we should be able to step over that one. There we go. We're now in mapped. So we're passing the result, which is this array, to this map record. So if I step into that, okay. So what this should do is it should basically validate the data that's coming back from the database. So it's saying it's checking a load of data types. So if it's a string, if it's not a string, sorry, then we throw exceptions and yada, yada, yada. And we basically generate another array of cleaned data. So let's scroll, or let's step over these because that's fine. We're not dealing with any of those things. We're not dealing with the last name. We're not dealing with the email. Okay, so now we're looking at the ID. This is the thing that we're dealing with. And if we go to cleaned, we can see that the ID hasn't been added. Blah, blah, blah. And then the data is still what we want. That's fine. So if isn't a string, oh, I see why it's causing an error. Yeah. We're saying if it isn't a string, and look, it is an integer, as you can see here, and you can see there, ID. If it isn't a string, then it goes to a null. It goes to an empty space, an empty string. If it's not a string, it goes to an empty string. Why did I do that? So in theory, if I was to step over this, boom, and step over it again, boom, ID is now turned to an empty string, which means, oh, wow. I don't know why I did that. That's not right. That'll be the issue. If I jump through these hoops again, return the cleaned, right? So mapped has ID is now null. So let's hydrate this, and then we throw we check for that. We check for that. That's all fine. But when we get to this stage, it throws an error, and the error here is the exception, which I've just gone and screwed up, but we can see it in the terminal at least. The following exception has caused a timeout. Oh, I was just too long on it. It just caused a timeout. But yeah, I think the error is up here in this routine in here. I think what we need to do. This is embarrassing. Hey, Gherkin. Sure, fire away. Please fire away. Let me know your question. Man, that sucks. Right, so this is, I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know why I did that. Right, this, if it's not a string, so for some reason, I thought that this was a string, and it's not. It's an integer. It's not. So maybe I should do if it's not an int, right? If it's not an int. So if is not an integer, then it should be, well, in fact, if it's not an integer, it should be null. And then here we're saying if it's not empty. What was I doing with this? This isn't right. This is in no way, shape, or form correct. Because now I think this is just old code that just doesn't work. Let's get rid of this because this doesn't. Whoops. This clearly. Okay, now I'm checking the data and checking whether it's empty. Now, hang on a minute. That could be, say, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is checking whether it's empty. But that will, this is, I think I can get rid of that. And I think I can do, if is an int, we can do cleaned. And I think we can do cleaned ID is equal to data int. And then we can do else, and then we can set this to be null. So cleaned ID, I think this is probably the right way, is equal to null. Because I have to take into consideration that there is times when this ID will be null. Right. Okay, let's see if this test now runs. So what I'll do, I'll tell you what, let's just get out of that debugger and then just run the test and then just see if that does. So we had 3 failures last time. Yes, that's passed. That's fixed. Okay, well, there we go. Okay, so I have been asked a question. Let me read this question. I'll just grab some water. Bear with me a second. One developer change. So, this question, this is an interesting one. So it's regarding e-commerce and database. So there's 3 devs working on one database. In this case, it's MySQL. One developer changes the balance of some users. Okay, how can you detect which one? How? Okay, well, that's a tricky one, because you're dealing with SQL, and I guess it depends on how that SQL has been updated as to how you're going to track which developer is. So let me just rephrase the question. So the question is, you've got 3 devs, 3 developers, you got one database, and one of those developers has changed a balance in the database. How can you detect which user has changed that particular record? Which developer has changed that particular record? So it really depends on how that developer has changed that record as to how you're going to detect for that change. So, for example, if it was a SQL change, if it was a SQL change, then the user who's logged into to the database, that would be the person who's changed that. Now, hopefully you're not using like the root user and your root password for all your developers on this one thing, because that would be very tricky, because everyone would be logging in with the same credentials essentially, and that way you wouldn't really have any idea as to who's done it. If you were to do it through sort of a web UI type thing, you would log in, and therefore you would be able to track which user had done that change. There really isn't any other way. If it was like a raw SQL thing and everyone used the same credentials to log into the database, then that's going to be very tricky to identify who's done that kind of thing. But really, what I've done in the past, if I wanted to sort of monitor users and stuff, I would because it's useful if you've got a building a system where you're collaborating and you want to know who's changed which line or changed what in this case balance of that thing. Then you would log in through a web UI, and you would have a table that would track the actions by the user who's logged in. So that's one way of doing it. If they're accessing at the same time, that's going to be a tricky one. I don't know how you would deal with that, to be honest, not off the top of my head, sorry. If everybody's logging in the same sort of way, then there is no way really to tell the difference between one user and another user in that regard. I mean, if it was like super important, like if it was like proper important, then it would be a case of reviewing the logs, reviewing the timestamps, reviewing the IPs, but that's going to take a lot of time, and it's not really perfect. But going forward, I would certainly have multiple users logging in to this one database, where you can say that this user does this, that user does that, and you can actually give them different privileges, grant permissions based on their user. So you could have like an admin user, you could have like a read-only user or a write-only user. You can have different access levels to various different tables if you wanted to lock certain users out. So going forward, that's what I would do. Yeah. Yeah. Apologies, man. I'll think about it later, but I can't. I think that's going to be a tricky one. I think that's going to be a royal tricky one. Yeah. Okay, so right, that's fixed then. So let's move on to these ones. So test invalid password. Have I still got the debugger on this test case? Yeah, let's turn that off, and then let's go to test invalid password. Sorry, I've changed my machine since I've. So what's this? Test invalid password. There we go. Okay, so failed asserting that an exception of type PDO exception is thrown. Okay, so this is where I was trying to test that an invalid exception is being thrown. Let me think. Right, so in this case, I want to throw an exception. What am I doing here? Oh, right, I'm creating a DB connection using root and invalid. And I want to fire that off, right? So if I hit this and scroll down a wee bit, what are we doing? We're creating that connection, then we're setting the attribute. Okay. Let me just have a little look in the actual database connections. So on the DB, that is just what that is. SQL, that injects the DB into there. Okay. Right. I guess what I could do is, just run the test. I'll put I'll put the debug on there. Let's just see what happens. Let's do a PHP integration here, and obviously run the debugger, and skip on that one, and skip on that one. Right, here we go. So that's fine. That's the message variable. And then if we stepped out of that, and then out of that again, here we go. We got this expected exception. Test result is null. So that's very strange. Is that not actually making the connection? I thought it would be. Huh. Yeah, that can go. That can. Let's just get rid of these things. That's very strange. Let me just read that a minute. Creates a PDO instance representing a connection to the database. So why? Sorry, that's my dog's barking in the background. Why? Why did that mean that's not correct? Oh wait. I think I know why. Yeah, I think I know why. What I need to do is come out of you. Come on. I think I need to clear that down. And then I need to... I was running the database in a weird mode. Bear with me a second. We're still... That's fine. Let's just keep running it. All right, next one. Right, let's just run it again. Yep. Right, here we go. Run it again. Exception. Yes, access denied for root user on localhost using yes. I think that's correct. Yeah, I was running the database in a peculiar mode. So yes, now they're all passing. So let's run, let's just quickly run Composer. Actually, let's just come out of the tests a minute, or come out of the debugger. And now let's run the whole suite, because I reckon that fix has just fixed everything. So let's just run that. This is going to run PHP CS, then PHP stan, then all the things. No, we've got a failure. What's failing here? Oh, there's lots of failures. Oh dear, I think I know what's wrong. Yeah, I need to rerun the database in that peculiar mode. Sorry. There we go. Right. Let's get rid of that. Bring that out there just so I can see it a minute. And it is that. Run test PHP unit integration. Bear with me a second whilst I fiddle with this. That is now good. So now if we ran all of these things, I'm hoping, oh, no, there's still that one failure. Or the 3 failures. Rats, I'm gonna have to restart the database. Give me a second. There we go. Right. Let me see. I need to... Give me a second. Sorry. I have really messed up my database connection. Give me a minute whilst I fiddle around. What I want to do is MySQL reset. Yeah. Log in as the root user and do all the things. Yeah. So I'm in the database. Now I need to do yeah. There we go. Oh, in a new window. That's why. That's why it isn't working. It's sorry. 2 seconds. Right. I need to bring up another window. New window. Default. Right. And then I need to do MySQL -u. Damn it. So that isn't... Why isn't that... Sorry, give me a sec. Why is that not... Oh, I forgot the P flag. Right, sorry, I need to just update something on the database locally. Give me a sec. Right, error. Oh, great. MySQL 5.7. Right. Almost there, sorry. No. Oh, this is ridiculous. Let me copy that into notes. Change that to be oh, come on. Check manual that corresponds to your MySQL version for the right syntax. Oh, it's those stupid little quotes. Because where I've copied stuff off of a website, the quotes are wrong. Right. Let's give that a go. No. The quotes are still wrong. Oh, this is gonna frustrate me now. Right. Where is equal to u is equal to u, and is that the right one? No, it's yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, I can't do this for some reason, and I've taken up too much of everybody's time screwing about. Essentially, what I want to do is fiddle about with a user that is on the database, and I can't do it for some reason. So, and I know that is going to be the fix to my issues. But now I think I've just gone and locked myself out of all the things. Yes. So, so let me see if I can. No. Yeah. Right. MySQL -u. In I go. Right, so I can get in from that perspective. So why can't I get in from this perspective? No, I can't. Although this is failed a setting that null is identical to 4. Oh, wait. Have I just gone and destroyed the database, as in the actual user record? Show databases. Sorry, I'm doing this off stream a second. Databases. Have I just killed it? So that use PHP _reg _course. Spell that correctly, Pete. It would help. Okay. Right. Show tables. Sorry, I am doing this off stream. Select all from user. Okay. So okay. Well, I can see the user is in there. So I failed asserting that test ID map record. Maybe these are something different then. Okay, fine. Let's carry on with this then. Weird that these are only cropping up now, but okay. Anyway, let's get on to the first one. So test user test ID map record. Failed asserting that. Oh, these are unit tests now. These are unit tests. These aren't. Wait, have I gone and fixed the integration test but broken the unit tests? Is that what's just happened here? So if I ran the integration tests, so all the integration tests are now passing. Have I broken the unit tests? Yeah. All right. Idiot. Okay. Right. Sorry about all the things. Failed asserting that null is identical to 4. So this is a unit test issue. Let's go back to our lovely units, which would be here, and it's user manager test. And it's line 106. So let's have a little look at that. Line 106, and I want to get to mapped ID of 4. So, oh look, I'm passing in a string. It should be an integer. Silly me. Right, how many tests have failed? There are 3. So let's run that again. Hopefully we've fixed. Yeah, we're now down to 2. I reckon it's kind of a similar thing. So if we scroll down to the next one, yes, that is supposed to be an integer. And let's have a little look at what was the other one? Line 128. Sorry, I always hit the wrong thing. This is what happens when you don't use this keyboard enough. Right, 128. Okay, how am I passing that in? It is an integer of 4, so what's the next one? 75. That should be null. So here, asserting that that is null, that's fine. Aha! Right, let's run the tests again. Jesus. Get there in the end, eh? Yay, that's all passed. You would be very interested in me doing some Wireshark stuff and some port scanning using Nmap. Oh, yeah, I haven't actually done any of that on stream. Test PHP unit. But I'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Let's test all the things. Everything in theory now should be working. All the tests should now be passing. Yay! Boom! They're all done. They're all done. Now, it did say it was generating a code report. Have I managed to set that up? I don't know if I've managed to set that up yet. Let's have a little look whilst we're still at it. Let's have a little go. I would have done that in reports, and yes. So let's now do PHP test. I can't remember what the commands are. Let me have a look at what's in my composer.json file. So we got PHP test unit, PHP unit coverage, and that does unit suite, and that that just does a unit suite. Okay, fine. We've got test integration, and then we've got integration coverage. So that does test suite of integration. So do we have anything? Yes, we've got PHP all coverage. So that does both the test suite all. So test suite all, if I was to see, I did this a long time ago. Let's have a little look. Where would that live? That would be in PHP unit.xml. So yes, we've got all runs off of unit and integration. So we have the so yeah, it has done all. I'm just gonna run. Oh, that might be an old one. Let's just run that command again. Let me remind myself what it was. PHP test PHP unit all coverage. So let's copy that and put that down there. Let's run this. Right. So let's have a little look at, say, the index page. You can see that's just all refreshed. So let's have a look at that. Let's bring that into view. All right, so we have 90% pass rate, well, 90% line coverage, I should say. We've got config hasn't got anything, but I think that's going to be very tricky to do because it's just settings, to be honest. I mean, how do you test those? So I might disregard those. And then the model has been tested 100%, the manager is at 97, and the database is at 81. So let's have a little look and see what's left on the manager. So on the user manager, we have delete by. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so none of that is done. Delete by, this is doing a query. Table name, delete by ID with that. So that would be, where would that be, Pete? That would be in SRC, that would be in manager, that would be in our user manager, and let's just get rid of that for a minute, bring that down. That would be in, probably at the bottom, test by ID. Let's step through that. So let's go into there. Here we go, delete all from table name where ID is equal to ID, and we're returning the statement. So that's going to run that. So I guess from a integration test point of view, what we can do is we can do a delete and a delete of a user and then try and find that user again, right? Yeah. Yes. So from a tests perspective, in integration, in manager, in user manager test, we have test update. I think what I'm going to do is just grab that a second and then paste it underneath here. And this is going to be test delete. Now, I don't believe I've got any setup routines, have I? Oh, no, I do. I do. Oh, brilliant. Awesome. So, yes. So, on setup, it runs this. However, I can't remember if setup runs it before the class is instantiated or before each test. We need to do this before each test. Let me just have a little Google on that and see. So it would be PHP. What are we looking at? PHP unit. Run before each test. Setup, does it run before or after the test case? Here we go. So setup runs before every single test method. Tear down runs after each test method. So that should be fine. So what it's doing is it's rebuilding the database by running the install script. All right. I'm so happy that I've managed to do that. Cool. So we should be good. Because of course what you want to do is make sure that the database always goes back to a given point, you know. Okay, so we want to first of all we want to find the user. If we can't find the user, then we fail. And then what we want to do is we want to do this manager, and we want to do delete by ID of 1, right? And what does that return? Delete by ID. What does that? It returns a Boolean. So we can do has deleted is equal to that, and we can assert that that is 1. So we can do self. Well, it's a Boolean, so it'll be true. Self assert true. That has been deleted is done. But then what we should do is we should be able to check. So let's do user should be null, right? We then try and find the user again off. So we found the user here, right? We check that the user exists. If it doesn't exist, then we've failed already before we've even deleted it. Then we delete the user. We make sure that that returns true. And then here what we do is we say user should be null, right? So this user should be null. We try and find it again, and then we're saying that self assert null is user should be null. There we go. All right. So let's save that and let's run the test suite. Fingers crossed this will all pass. Right, let's do that. So let's do the coverage report again. Let's run that. I think we had 97. Here we go, 24. So that did pass. So that's cool. So we did have 97% on this thing. So let's refresh that a second. Now we've got 100%. Woo! So we've covered that. That's really cool. That is so cool. What's the time? 18:22. Okay, I will give it another 10 minutes and then shoot on. So half past. Okay, so let's go back to here. So that's 100%. That's good. Okay, so where are we failing? We're failing on the config. I think what I'm going to do is probably exclude this because it's just settings. You can't really test it, to be honest. I mean, not really. I mean, you can include it and then you can make sure that the defined constants are what they should be. I guess you could do it like that. But I don't think that's worthy. Sorry, I keep clicking off of the screen. I don't think that's worthy of a decent test. That's testing configuration. It's not testing code. So let's see if we can exclude that then. Let's go to PHP unit.xml and there should be where we are these where we're trying to include things. I think there is a exclude things, maybe. Test suite. Do I have to do this for everything though? Do I? That would be a pain in the ass if I had to do that. Name as unit, test.php, integration, all. Let me see. Oh, it'll be in coverage anyway. Can we do... No, I don't have that. I'm going to have to go on to Google and have a look at the PHP unit configuration. XML exclude. I think it's just exclude and then file. So I think it's just this, right? I think it's just exclude and then file, and then you give the path of the file. So in this case, it would be an src, and it would be config, and it would be, is it settings.php? Yeah. So that's coverage reports. Let's see if that works. I don't know if that will, but let's just try it. So again, go back to here. No, not there. Sorry. Here, run that, and then go back into here, and then refresh. There we. No. I thought that was good. No, it's still there. Ah. Okay, so obviously isn't that. Include, exclude, directory, src. Maybe I need to do that. Okay, let's give that a go. No, it's still there. That's annoying. Of course, it could be cached on the browser. Okay, I'm going to have a look in the good old Google's PHP unit, bootstrap, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe I'm doing this in the wrong place then. So we have, maybe it should be on the test suite and not in the actual coverage section. Maybe it should be test suite. Yeah, let's give that a go. So we'll put it in both of them just in case they both pick it up. When all of them. So we got test suite directory. So do we have, is it that, and you pass it in instead of the file, you just do that? Maybe, I don't know. Is that how you do it? Just having a look at some examples on the net. So logging log. No, that's too complicated. To exclude the file testcase.php, add this to your PHP unit. Okay. I don't know if that is correct because it's not actually a test. I think it needs to be in coverage. I think it needs to be in the actual coverage section. But let's just give this a blast anyway and see. I don't think this is correct, but we'll give it a shot. No. So, yeah, I'm going to just get rid of all of that. I didn't think that was going to work. Coverage, include, exclude, src. So exclude from coverage. Force exclude of files from PHP unit code coverage. Let's have a look at that. So you have to do it as a filter, right? Coverage include oh no, they've done it as an actual file. That's strange, because this example that I'm seeing here, I'll just bring it over to the page. They are doing it as a file in the exclude block, which is what I was doing before. So before I had that going on, which I thought was right. Like, it makes sense in my head that would be how you would do it, but it didn't work. Unless, I mean, I guess I could try and exclude a directory, right? So all of config, for instance. Right, let's give that a whirl. It might be that things are just heavily cached on the machine. For some reason, I can't run that now. There we go. And then here, yes, it's gone. Woo! Okay, it's gone. So I had to do the directory rather than the file. Meh, I don't know. But anyway, we're now at 100% code coverage, so that's brilliant. I mean, that's exactly where I want to be. That's really good. All the database calls are tested. Everything else is done. So now I'm at a stage where I can actually start refactoring, because I've got everything at 100%. I can start refactoring, and then I can use the tests as a means of making sure that things are still working after refactoring. So we can do a little bit of refactoring. One area that I want to play with is around the way in which there's a lot of duplication here. So it would be in, say, in the abstract. No, not in the abstract. Hang on. Yeah, in the DB class, in the query class. Sorry, forgive me. So, for instance, we're doing a lot of this sort of things where we're building up the statements and stuff. There's a couple of places where this is happening. So like we're preparing SQL. We are, there's things that we could do. Like really, that should be in the function itself, passing in the SQL that does this. All right, because that's one line, that's 2 lines. Yeah, that's 3 lines. That's 4 lines that are exactly the same. And I mean, I would be replacing them with 4 lines, but those 4 lines would be running off of its own method. So I could try and do that, maybe, I don't know. Then there's the execute method. So that takes an array. I mean, I could, looking at this now, apart from perhaps this one, there are prepare and execute, right? So there are prepare and execute. It's the same deal. So I could wrap this in prepare and execute in a method that does these things, right? And then I guess it would return the statement. Back. Prepare and execute. Well, no, that's going to be tricky because it really depends on what's being fetched. Maybe this is going to be awkward to refactor because that one's going to be tricky. This one returns the statement that has been executed. So it's not going to return the statement, it's going to return whatever has been executed, which is Boolean. Now that's going to be very different from this one because that returns, it does the execution and then it does, so that's going to return Boolean, but then we use the statement in order to do the fetch. So I couldn't isolate this this one, because I would still need to have the statement. So yeah, maybe I need to rethink this. But when I initially looked at this, I thought I could do a lot of refactoring and tidying up. But maybe it's going to be more trickier than I first imagined. Anyway, I'm going to shoot. I need to do the dinner. So thank you ever so much for watching, everybody. Let me see if I've got any other questions. According to the docs, you need to exclude the tag inside the coverage tag. Yes, thank you very much. I can't. My eyes. I can't see what your name is. Is it Vijay? Vegetal? Thank you very much. Yes, that is correct. Cool. So I think maybe next week, as we've got this now to a decent stage, I think maybe next week we look at the other side of this, which is the MVC, the C of the MVC. So the controllers, building our own routes using PSR as a means of creating a router. And yeah, I think that would be the next step, really, because at the moment, you see, localhost. Do I have localhost running? Yeah, localhost is just showing that, which is pretty rubbish, right? So it's just a test to say selecting known record. I actually want to build this as a system, so user login thing. So maybe it's time to actually start building that out. I don't know. I'll give it some thought. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll speak to you again soon on the